This training is intended to develop a core of FAFSA and ORSAA completion volunteers who are confident to help students and families with their form completion. They are not expected to be experts and will encounter situations in the field where they will need to ask for assistance. Our goal is to provide volunteers with the skills to help approximately 80% of the families completing their FAFSA or ORSAA forms. Welcome. My name is Jason Hibbert. I work in the Financial Aid Office at Eastern Oregon University, and I'm a member of the Oregon Association of Student Financial Aid Administrators, commonly known as OASFA. I'll be your narrator for this FAFSA ORSAA completion video, Student Income and DRT. This is the 7th video of our 9 core videos. I'm happy to be a part of this project because when students can get their FAFSA or ORSAA done early and accurately, it is a big part of a smooth transition into college life, and they are more successful. This session is going to break down the student and spouse, if applicable, income section of the FAFSA and ORSAA. We will also cover how to use the IRS Data Retrieval Tool for FAFSA filers. The FAFSA and ORSAA will both ask for student income information from the prior year. This means that we need to use the 2019 federal tax return for the 2021-22 aid year. Here is a screenshot of what the FAFSA and ORSAA will look like, though they will reference 2019 on the 2021-22 FAFSA or ORSAA form. Start by indicating whether the student's taxes have been completed for the 2019 calendar year. If the student was not required to file taxes per IRS guidelines, they are not required to complete taxes just for financial aid purposes and will indicate not going to file from the drop-down list. If the student has already completed or will be completing their 2019 taxes, they will indicate their filing status, married filing jointly, married filing separately, head of household, single, or qualifying widower. Once the student answers the questions on the prior screen, the FAFSA will determine if the student qualifies to use the IRS Data Retrieval Tool, or DRT. Please note, the ORSAA does not have the DRT feature. If the student qualifies, a link to the IRS button will appear as shown on this screen, and the student can click there to start the process of importing their tax information from the IRS. We do not have screenshots on this slide of the process, but there are a couple of things that you should know. The student's address must be typed exactly as it appears on the federal income tax return. This means that if the student wrote Baker City on the tax return, they cannot use Baker on the IRS DRT screen. If there is a typo on the tax return, the typo must be replicated on the DRT. The student must have an FSA ID in order to use the data retrieval tool, and the FSA ID identifiers must match the student's social security number, name, and date of birth on the FAFSA form. It is important that information provided on the FAFSA form be as accurate as possible, so if the student can use the IRS DRT, it is in their best interest to use it. In addition, families who use the IRS DRT are less likely to be selected for a process called verification. Verification requires additional documentation and processing by the Financial Aid Office at each school to which the student is applying. Note again that the ORSAA does not have DRT capabilities, but also that the state does not have a separate verification process. The link to IRS button shown on the previous slide will take the student to the IRS website, where they can use their FSA ID to import their tax information directly from the IRS. There may be several reasons a student does not qualify to use the IRS DRT. For example, if a student did not file federal taxes in 2019, the student's marital status doesn't match his or her filing status, or the return was just recently submitted, say within the past 6 weeks, the IRS DRT would be unavailable or unsuccessful in transferring data back to the FAFSA form. Additionally, while a student who filed an amended return could use the IRS DRT, the student's FAFSA would be flagged as potentially containing inaccurate information. The Financial Aid Office at the school would then contact the student and request the 1040X form in order to assess the accuracy of the information provided. If the student does not use the DRT and does not have a copy of their tax return, we recommend that they proactively get their tax record through the IRS website by ordering a tax return transcript as soon as possible. This ensures that they have the documentation ready to provide to their financial aid office if their FAFSA is selected for verification. Having verification from the IRS on hand is even more critical for independent students who did not file taxes. A verification of non-filing letter may be requested by the Financial Aid Office, which has proven troublesome to get from many students' families in the past. However, note that dependent students, those that must include their parents' income information on their FAFSA, are not required to have a verification of non-filing letter. The IRS DRT will import the necessary tax information to the FAFSA. If the student is filing an ORSAA or is not able to use the IRS DRT, they can manually enter the information from their tax return. On the FAFSA, there are circled question marks by each question that offer helpful tips and direct line numbers from their tax return to assist in completing this section. The ORSAA displays the help tips under each question. These tips are actually quite helpful. The student may be asked a few additional income questions. FAFSA and ORSAA ask these questions in slightly different orders. Here we have a FAFSA image on the left and the ORSAA image on the right. Most students will not have anything to put in these fields, which is why they have been pre-populated with zeros, but these are important questions. They can make a significant difference in the calculation of the expected family contribution if not answered correctly when applicable. FAFSA uses 2 additional screens to capture student untaxed income data and additional financial information. Careful reading of each question with diligent referencing of the associated help topics will go a long way toward an accurate EFC being calculated at the end of the application. Pay special attention to any exclusions listed. In contrast, the ORSAA uses just 1 screen, but does collect the same information that the FAFSA form does. Congratulations on completing another installment of the FAFSA ORSAA completion training. We know that even in small doses, the information can be daunting, so please feel free to watch this session as many times as you need. You can even come back to it when you're helping students. If questions arise, please contact an Oregon College or University Financial Aid Office for additional clarification. When you are ready, you may move on to the next session. Thank you so much for joining us.